Back in 2011, when I started taking photography more seriously, I began taking pictures with a Canon 450D, which was an APS-C crop sensor entry-level Canon. This became my constant companion until about 2013, when I switched to a little Olympus EPL3 specifically for street photography. The last lens that I bought before switching systems was a Canon EF 35mm f2, and that one quickly became my favorite, even though it might seem like I abandoned it quite quickly. I switched to the EPL3 after only half a year. I did take some really great pictures with it though, and I consider it an important stepping stone on my way to becoming a street photographer, and that's why it's really dear to my heart. In this video I want to revisit this lens because I recently bought a Viltrox EF to L-mount adapter, and this was an obvious first choice to try out the adapter. We're not going to take street photographs though, because I really prefer smaller and lighter cameras for that. And instead we're going to a nature preserve and try to take some really moody black and white images, because that's always a great choice for winter. So let's get into it. Interestingly, I never actually used this lens for nature photography before, because back when I bought this, I really wanted to take pictures of people, and I lived in Berlin too, where there's a fair bit of nature, but much more city life to explore. I think it actually does much better for these natural kind of subjects though, because it's not a perfect lens by any stretch of the imagination. It has some vignetting on a full frame camera wide open, and it's also not extremely sharp corner to corner, which helps with these kinds of moody images. It almost looks like a vintage lens, thanks to these flaws, I suppose. And I enhanced that impression by putting a black mist filter on it too, which I often do when I use modern lenses. That way I can use the footage from these kinds of lenses also with the footage I'm getting from my vintage lenses, and that fits much better together. And maybe that's also why I enjoy the results from this lens so much. It has a sort of vintage feel to it, even though it's not really that old. There is actually a better version of this, the IS-USM version, which is supposed to be sharper and offers image stabilization too, but I don't really have any use for the additional sharpness when I go for a vintage vibe, and on a Lumix I don't really have that much need for additional stabilization, because the image stabilization in the body is actually really good already, and there's really no need. And of course there's also an f1.4L version of this lens, which is Canon's professional line. It's a step faster, but frankly, such differences were much more important 15 years ago than they are now. All current cameras are fantastic in low light, and the Lumix is no exception in that case. So the additional stop really doesn't help much, and there's already enough background separation with f2. So I don't really see any reason to buy one of those more expensive lenses, especially not the L lens, because that one is massive and weighs more than 700 grams. I was actually quite surprised by the results I was getting. I really love the mood of these images. They're sharp enough, and they have this really inky quality to them. Now this probably helped along nicely by the vignetting, which gives it a very moody vibe. So I was getting exactly the kind of images that I had imagined when I set out, and I'm happy about that. And also a little bit surprised, because I really wasn't expecting much from this lens. People complain about the bokeh with this lens, but I really don't see it. I think it's actually quite nice, at least wide open. If you stop it down a little, the bokeh gets a bit strange, but I suppose I know that, so I'm not gonna do that. I can just use an ND filter and then I don't have to stop it down, especially since sharpness isn't really a concern in this type of situation. Using the best gear is usually somewhat overrated. You can make do depending on what you want to achieve, and if your subject matter isn't really meant to be perfect, like in this case, then your tools don't have to be perfect either. Sometimes it's even better if they're not perfect. On the Lumix today I have the 35mm f2. I have it on a Viltrox adapter. It's autofocus, which is, in the forest, not really very useful anyway. It's just a very busy scene to get the focus correct, so it's not necessarily the lens or the adapter if it falls out of focus. It's just a scenery. So a challenging test, but I've been trying around with it, and so far this adapter is actually working quite well for me. Let's see what else I can find. I'm pretty sure that it's gonna be raining soon, so I won't spend too much time. I think I got some interesting results already with this, and already with the black and white, I think the pictures are turning out quite interesting. So this old lens on my new Panasonic seems to be working, which is pretty cool. So yeah, what do you think about these results? Is this in any way surprising to you? It definitely was for me. I didn't really expect to like these results as much as I do. So I would say this is an underrated lens. When the wind starts, it's usually a bad sign. If you enjoy the music in this video, then you can check out my bandcamp, polarcoaster.bandcamp.com. You can also support my channel on Ko-fi, where there are different membership tier options, and you can get early access to my videos or download the music in them. This really helps out to keep the channel running, because that way I have more time to spend on these videos and I can bring you more of them. Thank you for all your support. It really helps. I think this Viltrox adapter is actually working quite well for the autofocus, even on such an old lens and with a slow motor, pretty much, I would say. It's working quite well to record myself, and that is sort of surprising. I was thinking that it would work worse, probably, but it's surprisingly good, so I'm impressed so far, and I think I also got some interesting pictures. But I'll head back now because it's raining and I don't particularly like taking pictures in the rain, so maybe that's enough for today. I tried this a little bit, and next time I'll come back with some other lenses, I think. Maybe a 50 and maybe the 55 to 250, and that should give you a nice little overview of what this adapter can do. For now, this is already looking very good, right? Yeah, I think I like it. Oh. The sun's coming out. But still, it's probably gonna rain in a moment again, so better turn back. And next time, I'll try around a little bit more. I think this lens is actually a winner on the Lumix, although probably I'm not going to use it for photography much. I have much more interesting lenses for photography. For example, my Zeiss Biogon, which is an f2.8 and super sharp. And I also have a much faster 35mm f1.2 by Voigtlander. And those are going to be always my go-tos for photography. This one didn't disappoint me, and I think I got some really great images in this. The mood was really great, so I was very happy with the outcome. But I will still gravitate towards my manual lenses because they're much more comfortable to use. But that doesn't mean that this lens is useless for me. I actually shoot a lot of video, as you might have noticed since you're watching a YouTube video of mine. And I record myself like this, often with autofocus. It's a bit more comfortable. Normally I use a Panasonic 24mm for that, but it's a little big and I might not be always carrying it when I'm going outside. In those situations, this little lens might actually be a great choice because I can take it even if I'm not sure that I'm going to record myself. And since I'm going to be recording with a wireless mic anyway, it doesn't really matter that the autofocus motor is a bit loud in comparison. I wouldn't want to use this with like a shotgun mic on top of the camera. That would be quite annoying with all the noise that's coming from this lens. But with a wireless mic outside, it's really no issue. So this is probably going to be my just-in-case lens that I use whenever I want to do something with autofocus or when I'm not sure whether I want to be doing that and I'm not going to take a lens specifically for that purpose. And that's a really good choice for this kind of use case. So this was an old favorite of mine and now it's going to become a new favorite, I believe, because it could be very useful. As for the adapter, I'm actually positively surprised. It handled this really well, and I would have to say that this lens works better on my Lumix than it ever worked on my Canon 700D. So I would say good improvement. So this Viltrox adapter, also a winner. I like that very much. And soon I will be going out with more lenses and this adapter to try out whether it works just as well on my other lenses. Specifically, I want to use a 50mm and a telephoto lens. The telephoto was actually the reason why I got this adapter. Recently I tried to take bird pictures at the bird preserve and it was a bit difficult at times because there was no autofocus and I couldn't change the aperture either because I had just this very dumb metal piece adapter that didn't really have any settings change. And this adapter will come in handy for those kinds of situations where I want to take some quick footage of the birds perhaps. And that was the main reason why I got this adapter. Already it works with a different lens quite well. I really wasn't expecting much since this lens is so old, but well, I guess I'm getting a bonus here that I can use for just filming myself. Really interesting. If you want to see more results from Canon lenses, then you can subscribe. It really helps out my channel, so I would really appreciate it. And in this case, I would suggest that you subscribe to my photography channel, where I actually post these videos, even though you may be seeing this because you're subscribed to my main channel. Also, while you're down there, you can leave a like. And of course, you can also watch another video. There's actually an entire playlist of photography videos here. And I hope I see you soon for another video. Bye!